Before we start, I need y'all to subscribe. I need y'all to like. I need you to comment. You know what I mean? Comment your thoughts on the video when it's said and done. You know what I mean? Even though I said before we start, but you know, holla at your boy, say that the scales will prevail. We're here to discuss and talk about what happens when the sun sign, right, and the natal chart comes into the 7th house. What does this mean? What does this denote? You know what I mean? What is this going to represent? So first off, let's always start with the sun sign. We don't always got to start with the sun sign, but we're going to start with the sun sign now. So, sun is your personality. Vital force, vitality. It's going to represent your ego, your sense of self, self-expression. You could say your soul. Yeah, just these are some keywords that we can use in terms of the sun. It represents the conscious as well too. So that's just something to think about, right? So when we have the 7th house, let's talk about what this represents, right? 7th house is a representation of what I would say one-on-one relationships. It represents partnerships. We could say other people. We can also say that it's going to represent contracts, open enemies. If we want to talk about people, this house is going to represent your second child if you have one. And then also your grandmother, which would be your mother's mother, would be seen from the 7th house, right? So the sun here would influence all of these areas and people that we just mentioned, right? So first off, I like to say whenever the sun comes into this actual house, the sun doesn't always do so well here, right? Reason being is because this house is associated with Libra. If you know anything about Libra, Libra is a sign of relationships, right? It wants balance, peace, and harmony. It's like Maya energy. So when we think of the sun is very individualistic. It's about the self. So the sun wouldn't necessarily do so well in a house or sign, if we want to correspond with Libra, that represents other people, right? So it's exalted in the 1st house or in the sign of Aries. And when it's in, actually would fall in, I know we're not talking about the signs per se, but it will fall in Libra and it just wouldn't be so good in the 7th house. Reason being is because the sun is your consciousness, or your conscious and your ego, right? And it's saying that it's basically tied into other people, right? So your sense of even confidence, because the sun can rule or deal with confidence or pride, it can come from other people in terms of your relationship with these individuals. So that's why it's not necessarily best in terms of this placement, right? So that's just something to think about. Now on the flip side, you know, because we always want to look at the positive side of the energies as well too. You know, we all need people who can bring forth harmony and balance, you know, in our life. So this is one thing that you could be good at. You can shine at being a natural diplomat, peacemaker, someone who's about justice, law. You would shine these areas, as this is what this or this Libra energy can deal with as well. And you may do good as like a lawyer, actually. You know, a lawyer or attorney, lawyer/attorney. You may do good, at being a judge, as you shine and seeing both sides of the spectrum, basically, right? So, besides that, we got to take into consideration that we have, I want to say too, your pops, he would have been centered around the same area, right? He could have been into law, into contracts, maybe good at negotiating, or a relationship counselor. Y'all both would take upon these traits as well too, you know. So that's just something to think about, since the sun tells us where we're shining at. So if we want to, I always look at it like a two-way street, in terms of whatever house we're talking about. The sun or any planet besides the sun is going to influence the house, right? So this house represents what we attract in terms of relationships. So you have the sun here, so you're going to attract sun-like people, right? So this could be people who are very creative, charismatic. They can radiate a lot of light, have Leo or star quality, basically. Maybe into entertainment, dramatic arts of some sort, dancing. They could be into dancing. They could be into stage performance, musicians, things of this nature. Anything that's expressing that creative side is what you can actually attract. Maybe well-known people, you know, with this placement. because the sun is all about shining as well, right? So also, you know, I've said this plenty of times, take into consideration the sign that's on the cusp of the 7th house. And, you know, it is possible for some people to have, say if you're using Placidus house systems, you may have your sun coming through another sign other than the cusp, the sign that's on the cusp, you know. So take into consideration, if that's the case, take into consideration that sign as well, as this would influence more and tell about the relationship dynamic with your father. So besides that, this house also, like I said, it represents your second child. It represents your grandmother. So they'll also have these sun qualities as well to them, right? So they could be courageous. They could be very generous. They could be, this is on the positive side, right? It depends how the sun is aspected too, you know, because if it's not aspected well, it could be prideful, egotistical, selfish. But the positive side is generous, confident, rating light, the life of the party. You know, just very creative, you know, very creative, you know. So that's just some things to think about. It's also said that this house can represent open enemies. So, you know, a lot of times our relationships or partnerships can unfortunately turn into like enemies or things of this nature. So it could just be people who are on the negative side. They could take upon these negative qualities that we talked about, which is basically being prideful, boastful, egotistical, kind of like the shadow side of the Leo energy, or people just in the spotlight. You know what I mean? Since this is what you're attracting, people in the entertainment industry, you know, if you tend to attract this type of company, basically. Trying to think, is there anything else that I want to discuss? Talked about this house deals with contracts, so you could actually do well in this area. And give me 1 second, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I think that's pretty much about it, you know. I don't know if I said earlier that this house can deal with your first marriage. The second marriage would be first marriage or spouse. The second marriage or spouse would be the 9th house. Third marriage or spouse would be the 11th house, and then you skip every other house basically. A partner, in terms of marriage, partner can also display these sun or Leo-like qualities as well. You know, so that's just something to think about. With that being said, this is the sun again in the 7th house. I hope that this video was enlightening for you, and that it resonates with you. Stay tuned as we have more videos. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment below. You know what I mean? And we got more videos coming soon. Peace.